So after facing what seems to be a targeted attack from Auburn, keeping us down, we are here like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Of course, I'm just kidding. It was just some technical difficulties, but fear not. We are here. Got a little bit of a roundtable action to talk some college football. We have got Coach Sean. Coach, how you doing?
Doing good. Blessed to be here. As always, with the great Ty himself, Coach Jay and Merrill. Thank you for having me.
And the man who needs no introduction on this channel, because as long as I've been streaming, he's been my partner in crime. Jay Jant Sports, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing all right, man. Got bad breath. Got the morning bad breath and stuff like that going, man. But other than that, I'm doing all right. Doing all right with this beautiful morning.
Yeah. How's the weather up there in New York?
Hot.
Hot. Yeah.
No damn sense why it's getting so hot, man. It's I mean, like I said, next week we're getting cool, man. But it just no, it's this is too much. It's too humid, too hot. I wanted to go back down to the 50s. That's the beauty about Buffalo, man. That's the beauty about northeast weather. Like it gets up and down. One day it's like 50 degrees, the next day it's 80, and it just makes you can never adapt. You can never adapt.
And finally, man's not hot himself, Jake Merrill.
That was good, man. I lay for you. Yeah, dude. How you doing, man? How's everybody this morning? As you guys jump in, catch us. It's good to see you guys. Excited to get in here and talk some football. Not in Seattle. It's not in Seattle. It is overcast and rainy. Guess what? Another beautiful gray day in the Pacific Northwest.
Listen, I love that stuff. We've
I
talked
know
about
you do,
that.
dude.
I would
I
be staying in there in my lair.
Yeah.
Let me win the lottery. I'll have a 1,000-foot cabin in the middle of the woods, and I'll just be watching football, and that'll be my life. But
Yeah.
speaking of football, guys, there's a lot of craziness going around. Where do we want to start? Right? Do we want to talk about a potential major flip in recruiting? Do we want to talk about the college football landscape fundamentally shifting, or do we want to talk about what could be the catalyst for Alabama's offense? I'm going to leave it up to the panel for where we start.
JuJu.
Ooh, JuJu.
Here we go.
I'm outvoted. There it is.
Democracy.
Facts.
What's that video? Have y'all seen the video of the guy whenever he's getting arrested and he screams out democracy? I forget what he says, but it's hysterical. No. I'll have to find it and send it to you guys. But can Colorado and Coach Prime get a major flip? One of the top quarterback prospects in the nation, JuJu Lewis, he's committed to USC. We know what Lincoln Riley does with quarterbacks, specifically quarterbacks that fit in his offense. That's a conversation we'll unpack during this segment. But USC isn't alone. Coach Prime and Colorado are making waves and chipping away at a very, very talented prospect who reclassified to be a part of the 2025 class. So on top of that, Hugh Freeze and Auburn are doing everything they can to try and get that attention from JuJu Lewis and his family and see whether or not they can become a major player in this recruitment. So, Coach Sean, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about JuJu Lewis? Alabama was involved in this battle, but it seems like Alabama has shifted focus to a new quarterback who we will talk about because it is topical. But where do you see this JuJu Lewis battle playing out, going? I'm interested in hearing from you.
I think with Colorado, the longer this thing and the more he's in Colorado, the more visits he take to Colorado, you can best believe Colorado is going to sink their tentacles into this young man. With Shador definitely leaving after this year, this kid will probably have just as much attention on him as anyone. With a stable coaching staff, finally, a competent coaching staff, great fans, obviously, great fans in Colorado, and an appreciation for what Coach Prime is doing. I think JuJu see an opportunity to come in and play immediately there. Hell, I don't even know who the backups there are, so I think JuJu really has an opportunity to make some money for himself right there in Colorado, in Boulder. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city, as Miro has always told me. And just opportunity, man. I think the opportunity for a kid like JuJu to step on the field very fast, I think that may be too much to turn down.
Very true. Chance, what you thinking, my man?
Yeah, I think there definitely could be an opportunity. I think their NIL is going all the way up. They're forming new businesses in Boulder, Colorado that's joining the NIL cooperative. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're going to try to pitch into an effort to get him. But hell, I mean, for the most part, I think Deion Sanders, he doesn't really. Colorado's one of those institutions where yes, they use NIL, but it's they're very small. They're not even in competition with some of the big league schools out there in terms of NIL. So they're not going to win a lot of major battles based off of NIL. They're going to win simply because of Coach Prime, right? They want to be a part of, and they want to be a part of the brand, right? Like Travis Hunter's on the cover of College Football 25. They went 4-8 last year, and he's on the cover of College Football 25, right? And if it wasn't going to be him, it could have been Shedeur Sanders. If it wasn't going to be Shedeur Sanders, I wouldn't be surprised if Shiloh was going to be on that cover. Why? Because these are popular athletes that are top 15 in the nation in terms of NIL value. So, again, like what was Shiloh and Shedeur doing this summer? They were in not this summer. What were they doing this spring? In Paris, and doing walkaways. Name a college football player that was doing walkaways in Paris. You can't. I mean, this is how it is, guys. Like these are damn near celebrities that are known worldwide now, and so for JuJu Lewis to be a part of that brand, to increase his NIL, to increase his NIL value, to be a part of with Coach Prime, and to know that Shedeur Sanders is right now projected to be in the number 1 pick in the draft. At least right again, this is you never know what's going to happen the following season, but it's still, I mean, right now he's projected to be a top 5 pick within the NFL draft, and they went 4-8. Now, here's my thing about JuJu Lewis that could stop him from going to Colorado. Number one is the offensive coordinator, right? Because Pat Schumer is the quarterback's coach, and he's the offensive coordinator. Now, last year you had Sean Lewis, and Sean Lewis was thought of to being a solid offensive coordinator, and he got fired he got fired, I think, halfway through the season. And so it's kind of like what happens if Colorado if Deion Sanders decided to say, you know what? I don't like the direction of my coaching staff. We're once again not successful. Let's say they win 7 or 8 games, but maybe they have higher expectations. Their offense starts to kind of fell down a little bit. But what's going to happen with that entire offensive staff? Because Deion Sanders has clearly shown that he is ready to fire not just Sean Lewis. He was ready to fire a bunch of people. And so, again, this is kind of the danger of bringing on NFL coaches, including first-year veterans. They just brought in Chad Ochocinco. He's going to be part of that staff. I believe so. I could be wrong about that. Marvin Lewis.
Phil Lodeholt as well.
Yep. Marvin Lewis. Who else is part of that? They just got Warren Sapp is going to be the defensive line coach of that team. So this is kind of one of the biggest issues when you're bringing NFL first-year guys that all of a sudden now you got to go ahead and recruit. Former NFL coaches that have no prior college experience. You got to go out there and you got to try to recruit. And sometimes you may not like the process, especially what you're doing it right now, because it's way harder for the positional coaches now than it's ever been before, and they may be gone the other year. So, this is kind of one of the biggest issues with Colorado right now. Also, here another thing too, the transfer portal. Like Coach Sean said, you don't know I have never seen a program do so well in the portal, but do so crap in recruiting. Like I've never seen that combination really happen before, and they've done that well again 2 years in a row. But the problem is last year's transfer portal class, 75% of that class is gone, and so is he going to deal with that? Is he going to like the continuity, which is going to happen with that program? Again, Shedeur was good, but Shedeur was already developed in Jackson State before he even went to Colorado. Yeah. Right? Travis Hunter is a all-time sleeper athlete who's playing both sides of the ball, right? We haven't seen anything like that since Jabril Peppers. And even Jabril Peppers wasn't playing that much offense. Matter of fact, I've never really seen I've never ever seen an athlete play on both sides of the ball the way that he did. I've never seen it. Maybe since Deion Sanders was at FSU, but even then, he wasn't even doing that many times. So, what happens when all these players are gone? And yes, JuJu Lewis can step up to the table, and you got some other talent. But in terms of your overall recruiting, coaches leaving, transfer portal, I mean, you don't even know if the roster is gonna be on hold on a yearly basis. That could kill the entire hype of JuJu Lewis going to Colorado.
Yeah, Jake, what do you think, man?
Yeah, but gosh, you unloaded, Jay. Unloaded. That was awesome.
And Packer Nation, Jay's right, because per some Colorado analysts, now unless something has changed, Ocho Cinco is set to be an analyst on the staff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
You got
Sports
Warren
Illustrated
Sapp.
reported that.
Yep.
Yeah, you got Warren Sapp. You have your offensive coordinator, like you said, Pat Shermer, which is the interesting one with Shermer. But I think guys like him. I'm going to be honest with you. I think right now you have to have, it's kind of all brought up, right? You see it, a lot of coaching staffs doing this, though. You have to have a staff that has number one, like a good background from we can get you to the NFL. We can get you NFL exposure, right? And we also can pay you. Okay. So Colorado's utilizing its resources or like their connections or network really, really well. And I think that's what it comes down to. I also think, there's guys that who are really attracted the way Dion goes about it. Dion will, with his sons leaving, they're gone this next season. Now he gets to kind of find he like he does with Travis, right? He kind of grabs on to certain players and really gets, becomes real tight with them. I think maybe that's something where he does like JuJu, right? If that were the case. I think it's going to be interesting when they get on campus and how they kind of connect with the guys. It's going to be, I think they're just going to pour so much into it. I could see it happening. I could. And I feel like what it does and what they'll convince from this standpoint is they'll say, hey, look, if you come over and you come over to Colorado, think of the other guys who will follow. Think of what we'll be able to continue to create around you. I mean, I just read something where Quanell, who's that? How do you say his last name?
Quanell Farrakhan.
Yeah, he's excited to go visit too. You know what I'm saying? So now you're starting to get a little bit of buzz, and I think that's what you do is you're putting all that into one. You're putting a lot of recruiting effort into one guy because it helps recruit everything else, right? And generate a lot for everything else. And does Colorado get him? It's hard because he's shown like signs like look, he's at Alabama that felt like all the time. So is he doing the same thing all over again, spending time there and really figuring out if he wants what works best for him, right? Because that's probably something really interesting to think about just from a standpoint is, I mean, he was at Alabama a lot. I mean, we heard about him all the time, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go back over here and look here. I'm going to look over here, right? What was Indiana another one? Correct? If I'm correct, Indiana
did creep in there at one point, I think, and I think they might be set to get a visit.
Yeah. So what this guy is like doing some unique movements with the recruiting process, keeping everyone on their toes, and could be either he's shopping, like he's generating more and more buzz. Are you trying to get a better value or better price for your value, right? Increase your value. I don't know. Maybe I don't know the young man, so I don't know if that's his style or his side, his corner, if that's what they look at. Or like, is he legitimately looking? Okay, well there you go, Packer Nation. Yeah, JuJu. Yeah, his QB coach is at Indiana. That's huge. So, but I also think like from that standpoint is he's taken serious consideration. Being like, okay, where do I fit best, but also how can I utilize the resources they have to kind of build myself, right? And continue to play football at a high level. So, that's what I think. I don't know if they'll flip him, but I think they have a good shot.
Yeah. I think another question is if he, this is where you got to be careful. Is he going to stay next year? I mean, I think that's a good question to ask. Is he going to stay? I was
going there. Yeah.
If he has a great year, if he does have a great year, and let's say let's say they make the playoffs, they have a great year, what's stopping NFL teams from getting him? Because ultimately, that's the ultimate goal is to get to an NFL team. If the Dallas Cowboys decide to make an offer, or somebody else decides to make that offer, it's going to stop him for going. When all his sons are gone, Travis is gone. All these relationships that you kind of develop and that you kind of brought from Jackson State, all of them are going to be gone. Do you really want to do this at Colorado and build them up to be a power program? Or if somebody else is calling you with a sweet offer, are you going to go off to the league where you don't have to worry about recruiting anymore?
So one thing as well, like what if it even doesn't even have to be the NFL? What if Billy Napier gets fired?
That's what I was just thinking.
Right.
And
It's just the thing I was
Florida
thinking.
comes and calls and is like, hey, we'd love to have you involved in the program. Now, all of a sudden, you don't
God.
have the ties at Colorado because both your sons heading to the NFL, Travis Hunter heading to the NFL. And that Florida opportunity, look, it's incredible what he has done for Colorado, because 2 years ago, we weren't even mentioning the name, the Colorado Buffaloes. That was not even a thought on anybody's radar, even
Mhm.
mine. And I'm college football obsessed. They were 1-11.
Yeah.
Nobody cared, right? It was like, okay, they're going to be Colorado. Now you're interested, whether you are interested to see if they succeed or interested to see if they fail. You're interested. The bottom line is you're watching. The bottom line is you're thinking, right? And speaking of thinking, I would like to thank Caitlin for the $49.99 saying hugs, Ty, Sean, Jay, and Meryl. Great to see y'all. Thank you for being here, Caitlin. Happy you're
Thank you,
here.
Caitlin.
Hope you are having a great Friday, and it leads into a great weekend. Phil with a nice verse for us this
Yeah,
Friday morning. Thank you for that, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. But that's one of the things I think about. Like, even though Florida isn't in a position right now to win college football, they have a brand, like a real brand. And if he has access to that real brand, man, I think that he could make some noise. I think he could make some impact because he's already done it at Colorado. Right now, one of the things before I ask about Auburn is everybody on this panel kind of alluded to it.
Yeah.
And someone in the comments, I think maybe it was Jeff and Anthony, we're going to get into those. I starred your comments that way. After this segment, we will dive into those when we kind of open this up for roundtable and comments. Is the NIL, right? I think Jeff asked about the NIL. Colorado may not have the NIL fund of an Ohio State, of a Texas A&M, but I think what they do have is notoriety right now. And in the world of name, image, and likeness, that's the first step, right? Like if you're recognizable, if you have notoriety, you can capitalize off of that. So maybe it doesn't come from the collective, but it's the opportunities that unlock once you get there, right? Like Jay said, how many other players have you seen that were in Paris at Fashion Week? JuJu gets to tap into that, right? So keeping on the JuJu topic, do y'all see Auburn as a serious player? And we'll go the exact same way. We'll go Coach Sean, Jance, and then Jake.
I don't think so. I really don't, man. I'm going to tell you why. I don't think this state is ready for prime, right? Alabama or Auburn. I just don't. I know Auburn is probably more in tune with the youth and what they like. If you look at their games, it's a gang of youth there. If you look at Alabama games, it's a gang of old people there. I mean, it's just the straight up truth. If you look at Auburn, I would say 50% of their crowd is 14 to 30, right? If you look at Alabama, about 60% of their crowd is 40 to 75. I mean, like years of age. There's so many older people be at these games, man. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said Florida. I do believe if Prime comes in and win 8 games at Colorado, God forbid you win more than 8 games at Colorado, and Florida struggles with that schedule and they let Billy Napier go for whatever reason. I do believe if they get in touch with Prime and that man comes to the SEC with the resources at Florida, his swag, he's from the state of Florida, lots of connections in Florida with that guy, high school coaches, lots of old teammates. That dude's going to be a problem because he's going to bring, I tell people this all the time. I know his style is overbearing to somebody who's been, say, Sabanized, right? But to a young African-American athlete who coming from these areas, all the older guys look like Coach Prime to us. Do you know what I'm saying? All the guys that we look up to look like Coach Prime. They talk like Coach Prime. They act like Coach Prime. That's what we want to play for, right? This guy will touch kids who who think football is their way out of something more than people who don't come from that community. So he will be a dangerous person, man. I'm telling you, you listen to me. Prime will be a dangerous person in the SEC. I personally hope he don't come to the SEC. I would, as a Bama, if I'm speaking from a Bama fan, I don't want him nowhere near the SEC because his aura is invigorous. Kids gravitate to it, and you put some real money behind that, real facilities behind that. Listen, man, watch out. So yeah, I think it's an opportunity. He gets another job. I just don't know if Auburn's it.
So before I go, Coach, I misspoke and I apologize. I think I
I'm
asked
sorry.
you if Coach Prime would go to Auburn. I meant JuJu, right? I was on the brain of Coach Prime. I meant JuJu. I apologize.
Yeah, real quickly. Yeah,
Freeze is getting fired.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you know.
Let's start that shit up.
It's early. It's early, ladies
Already.
and gentlemen. I apologize.
Oh my God,
it's all good.
Great.
To answer your question, Ty, yeah, I think JuJu will. Yeah, I do. I think that offense is very similar. Inside outside zone, you know, a lot of RPO based stuff. If you look at what he did at high school with Caleb Odom, yeah, I think that he would be a player at Auburn. That's a whole fact.
Chance, what you thinking?
Well, damn, now I'm joking. No, yeah, it's possible. I mean, like Coach Sean said, I mean, like I said, I think the scheme is a little bit more quarterback friendly. That team is young. It's full of 5 stars. You got a couple of them. You got Cam Coleman on that roster. You know, the question is, are they going to, again, the class that they just got recently, which was a good class, top 10 class, is it going to stick around for the next, for the next year or two? Are they going to really stick around for JuJu Lewis once he kind of gets there, and not just gets there, but he starts to kind of develop under Hugh Freeze? First of all, is Hugh Freeze even going to be there in the next couple of years? You know, Auburn's not patient, right? They're not patient. They're trying to compete with Alabama. They want to beat Bama. Right. If you're gonna have losing seasons, you better beat Bama. Right. We've seen Harsin, and Harson's a hell of a coach. I don't care what anybody says. That dude can coach. But Harsin, in that 1 year, man, that 1 year where they went 6-7 that 1 year, but they came extremely close to beating Alabama. They gave Alabama hell and fits. They sacked Bryce Young 10 times in that game. They set the Iron Bowl record for sacks. But what happened? The following year, similar situation, he got fired. So it's Hugh Freeze. If he goes through a similar transition in a similar situation and you're not successful, and Texas and Oklahoma goes into the SEC and they start doing their thing, and everybody and Alabama starts to beat the crap out of you because we got them at home this year. They beat the absolute hell out of you this time, and it's not even close. Is Hugh Freeze, is he on thin ice, especially if he can't land JuJu, or is he out of there? So I don't know. I think Auburn has a chance. Because of Hugh Freeze and the reputation that he has. But I don't know. Right now I still feel like USC is they're right now, they're in the driver's seat. They're in the driver's seat of the Ferrari right now. To be honest with you, if I'm JuJu Lewis, if I was kind of an inside of this kid, I would still stick with USC only because of Lincoln Riley. I know Lincoln Riley can give it to the NFL. I know he can.
Facts.
But if I was him, and I'm just saying, if I was him, I'll still would keep it. I know Bama's going in a different direction, but if they do make that phone call, just because of who my offensive staff is, right? I got Caleb like this time. I'm not dealing with damn, how did I forget his name already? I'm not dealing with Tyrese. I'm dealing with, now all of a sudden, right? I'm dealing with an offensive staff that is tailor-made to developing quarterbacks. I just see Michael Penix become the 8th overall pick. I know the talent that's at Alabama. I'm still keeping an eye on that, right? Ohio State. I know Ohio State's been creeping in that situation. I'm still keeping an eye on Ohio State because of the receivers that they know how to develop. Plus, you know what I'm saying? So, there, of course, if I'm I'm not going to close on my recruitment. We have a long way to go, but USC should still be in the front runners because of Lincoln Riley.
Jake, what you thinking, my man?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like Lincoln Riley, what he's done. We have, Caleb Williams. Honestly, what he did at Oklahoma, what he did. Caleb Williams is he's generating a lot of buzz, right? He'll continue to do so. It's good for him in the end. You remember, if you generate buzz, you make money. Like let's be honest. It doesn't matter. That's kind of sad that we say it that way, but if you generate buzz as an individual now, you make a lot of money because it gets people to follow you, and then you can switch your message, right? So
Yeah.
I don't. That's one of the sad parts about it. Like that's why I like just like be real, right? And so getting away from Caleb Williams' aspect, I'm not saying he's not real. I mean, he just does him. That's cool. That's fine. With JuJu, I think from the football side of things, and you look at what Lincoln Riley maybe could do for him, Lincoln is really trying hard right now, right? Like we look at what he brought in to help him, especially from it's not like he didn't listen to what everyone, I mean, he saw it too, but from a defensive side of things, like, oh my gosh, like this is just horrendous. I mean, the offensive line in general was horrendous. So I think here's the next part to all this, right? Is get your official visits out of the way for JuJu. I jump down to Colorado. I take a peek there. They pulled in a lot of, if they can protect Shador, I'm telling everybody, if they can protect Shador and he gets time to throw the ball, they will be dangerous. Defense is their big question. Don't get me wrong. But I do think they have some pieces in place that are going to, when we were all on, and Jay, I wish you were there for that one. You missed out. But when we were all on, which one was that, Ty? You know what I'm saying?
Where were you, my man?
Yeah, what the hell, Jay? But you remember when we were on the panel, we did the panel, was it last Monday we were talking about this with the Big 12?
Yeah, on Monday.
Yeah, so that's why I picked like Colorado was like my kind of like this dark horse, and I went off on a limb. I could be safe and pick Utah, right? I could be safe and maybe talk about Arizona because they do have a lot of returners. I just don't know what Brennan's going to do. You know what I'm saying? From the coaching standpoint, what he's going to install to utilize talent. But we go back to this Colorado thing and say, okay, Colorado makes this huge jump. I know some people have their different feelings on it. You know what I mean? And I see Sharpshooter in here. I saw Brensky in here, right?
Shout out to Brensky.
But let's say they do this big thing, right? And they make this big splash. Now what happens? Like, ask yourself that question, because we have to literally say, okay, Colorado makes this huge splash. Let's say for these guys waiting to see what happens, now they feel comfortable jumping back over. It's not a hype game anymore, right? It's not like what everyone, the media is labeling it and all this stuff. It's not a hype game anymore. So I say, man, like that's where you would say. Now we jump to Auburn. Does Auburn have the ability to get JuJu? This is an interesting one, because now you'll have Auburn, who what's hard is they can't showcase, or Hugh Freeze had a hard time showcasing his offense because you have Peyton Thorne for your quarterback. And I'm not trying to dig on him, but I haven't seen, like, how long's that guy been in the NCAA now, and his improvement?
One could say he's a thorn in the side of Hugh Freeze.
Ty Hayes with the word.
I'll be here all week, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, good job, Ty.
What, 5 or 6 years? Been there for a long time.
He has, but I just now, even at Michigan State, man, just watching him, like I just didn't see that improvement. It wasn't like Graham Mertz, right?
Yeah.
Like Mertz comes from Wisconsin, so we take these two examples of like these more so like power teams, right? We think of Michigan State, we don't think of it as a finesse team that throws the ball. We think of them as power run. We think at Wisconsin, we think of power run, right? So you look at Graham Mertz. Well, he goes to Florida and he dramatically improved. Look at that dude's numbers, right? Only 3 picks. What do you have? Over 3,000 yards, right? I mean, 20 something touchdowns. The guy dramatically improved compared to Wisconsin. So how come we don't see that same? Why didn't we see that with what's his Peyton Thorne? Yeah, I almost said Thorne in the side, but because of Ty. but I tell you, so that's an interesting one. I just don't know what, different people, like what attracts them necessarily to I guess Auburn from JuJu standpoint, just because what does Auburn offer you? And everyone, has different takes, right? Because some people get really mad when I'm like give any sort of little bit of credit here or there to Auburn, right? And
I got
I'm
my
not
pitchfork ready to go.
yeah, please don't burn me. All right. I'm trying here. I'm trying to be just respectful of all college teams a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Just fuck the Ducks. Anyways, but Oregon. But no, I'll tell you this is with JuJu, like if this guy generates already so much headlines, so why Auburn? Because that's not going to generate you necessarily. You just brought up a good point. Everyone has kind of brought this point up, but we go back to the cover of NCAA, right? Like, what you have Travis Hunter on the cover of NCAA, you have a Colorado player, and the team just went 4-8, right? So that guy, they're obviously generating a bunch of noise. So what does that do what does that do for you in the long run if you can perform? Right. And they get pieces in place beneficial. But I think we go also to the question, Ty, you brought this up, was that Florida thing that, I mean, they just made Billy Napier a scapegoat, right? So they can blame him. I mean, we discussed this, like we have discussed this so much, and Florida's a tough one because I have some love for Florida. I really do. But the hard thing is like, so okay, they make him a scapegoat. They reel in Dion? Like, okay, Dion at Florida is dangerous from a standpoint, but again, is it the same? Is it like times 10 compared to when he comes to Colorado? But does he put the pieces in place? Because in the SEC to win, you have to have pieces in place on your coaching staff. I mean, you really have to have guys who develop guys and make them like phenomenal, right? You need to have coordinators who know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the thing is, and sorry if you're a Duck fan. I hate the Ducks, you know.
Hey man, it's okay. I let them know that you're our resident Washington guy, and then after my bad pun, I let them know you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, unless I take them, in which case you miss 100% of the shots you do take. But wanted to hit Anthony's comments right here. Right? Anthony had some good comments, and he says, can you guys see Indiana? Shocking, everybody getting JuJu like Nebraska with Dylan Raiola. In today's recruiting, I wouldn't. Okay, I'm not a betting man, Anthony. So if you're asking me, hey, if you were, Ty, would you bet on Indiana? I probably wouldn't.
No.
Right? I think that the three right now, USC, Colorado, Auburn, no particular order. But listen, Packer made a great comment in here earlier saying that there is that connection. JuJu has a coach that's now at Indiana. That was the connection for Raiola. Now, in the sense of Raiola, his uncle was the offensive line coach, I believe, at Nebraska, so he had the family ties. In today's age of college football, Anthony, anything is possible, right?
Anything, bro.
It's just one of those. He says, I don't think in Michigan or the SEC, listen, that's fair, right? I think USC is probably the way to go. Do I think he would go to Georgia? I don't.
No.
Because
not
Georgia
with all those
just
young
got
quarterbacks
Rashada.
they got. Yeah,
exactly. Beat me to it, Coach. You beat me.
And
to
they got
it.
another one. They got another one. I think some kid I forgot before that. Tall kid. AJ looked like AJ McCarron.
Yeah.
Tall kid. I forgot his name.
And Anthony asks about the Raiola lawsuit, saying that might be on the death penalty for them. I don't think that the Rashada lawsuit. I apologize.
We're starting narratives, everybody.
We are starting narratives, and I apologize. I don't
beyond
think
Auburn.
I don't think that that's going to be something that will be a death penalty situation. And then Anthony, we were looking at this last night. And for those of you that didn't catch the stream, Anthony, you'll know him, Chris Griffin of the Horns Down podcast. He is an attorney. And so we actually looked at the 4-prong test and discussed this on the stream that you have to pass in order to prove being defrauded in the state of Florida. And this is where this gets really interesting, guys. And I want to talk about this a bit. So before I go into the 4-prong test, I want to hit this comment right here, and then we'll go into this Florida situation and tie it into the NCAA on thin ice. Anthony says, for me, if he doesn't go or recommit to USC, I think it's Georgia, Texas, or Oklahoma. They all have a quarterback. Oklahoma has Kevin Sperry, who, ladies and gentlemen, I really like Kevin Sperry. I watched him as a freshman or an 8th grader here at Dallas.
Yeah.
He looked like one of the best players at this 7-on-7 tournament, and there were 5 stars at this tournament. Kevin Sperry can spin it now.
What's he ranked right now, Ty?
He's a 4-star. He's a top 300 guy. Is he a top 10 quarterback now?
I thought he was. I saw he was a top 10 QB. Am I wrong?
Man, he's talented. I really like Kevin Sperry. Yeah. Texas has KJ Lacey, the Maryland quarterback, really talented as well. And Georgia's got a loaded room. This is a solid quarterback class. I really think so. So
dude, I just saw this. I gotta find this.
Want a round table on this right here. You're streaming early, Ty. Yeah, we decided to do a little Friday stream. I'm going to be going to Colorado this weekend, and we'll be returning on Tuesday or Wednesday. So we wanted to have our usual barbershop kind of style of stream in here. But talking about Florida in this lawsuit, there's 4 prongs that Rashada is going to have to prove. That the false statement about a material fact, okay, I think you can prove that one. I actually don't think that will be too terribly difficult to prove. This is where it gets really tough, and gentlemen, dare I say, next to impossible. Knowing that the statement is false, right? Yeah. So you would have to then prove that the university intentionally misled him. After that, you would have to prove that the university and Billy Napier and the Florida NIL Fund knew that the statement is false. You then have to prove intent. If you can prove prong 2, you go a long way into proving prong 3. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm not an attorney. I do not have a legal license. I did not pass the bar. I didn't go to law school, but I did work in law firms. And I bring that all to you to tell you intent is notoriously difficult to prove. And then finally, you have injury. And guys, the last thing I'll say to this before I pass this around is this. Whenever we talk about injury, it really hurt his case whenever John Ruiz and Life Wallet came out yesterday and stated that there was no $9.5 million offer to JuJu Lewis, because that's the injury he's suing for.
I mean, right? Rashada.
Who did I say?
You said JuJu Lewis.
It's because I'm reading chat. And
I know.
This right here.
We're on to starting way new narratives today for the.
This is the hard part, guys. I apologize. Whenever you're trying to take notes, read notes, read chat.
They're gonna start watching this. They're gonna start watching this. Man, oh, JuJu Lewis suing Florida.
Holy shit! Sanders to Auburn.
Yeah, Jordan. It depends on the system. Right, it completely depends on the system. For Lincoln Riley's system, I'd probably take maybe Lacey because of his mobility, right? And I think, or even like a Sark, but for what Venables and Latrell wants to run, Sperry, right? It all just depends on system. Those are 2 really good quarterbacks. I'm very high on both of them. But I'll tell you this, if Coach Sean was like, I get first pick, Ty, you get second, I'm going to shake his hand afterwards, and I think we're both going to walk away from the situation feeling great. But let me clarify. Rashada, not JuJu, Rashada suing that $9.5 million, that was a big part. And obviously they have something, right? They have texts, or else they wouldn't have filed the lawsuit. So, and Donnell, I don't disagree with you, my man. USC is... Yeah. That offense is really what JuJu would excel in, is that Lincoln offense. He is the type of quarterback that would excel in that offense, and it is LA, right? So I want to do this round table. What are y'all thinking about the Rashada lawsuit?
Man, for me, first shout out to A Watt, shout out to Brinsky, and shout out to Jay Mims. What's up with you guys, man? Thank y'all. For me, man, I what I think and what I hope are both at 2 different ends of the spectrum. I don't want to mess with anybody's money, and I don't want to pocket watch anybody, but I really hope this lawsuit go away, because if this lawsuit is successful, other people will follow suit with this kind of stuff. You know, when things don't work out, this may start a trend of these kids who come from families that are well off enough to sue people and to follow these things. I don't want this to become the first big domino, you know. I want it to go away, to be completely honest, as a fan, But as a realist, I don't know, Ty, because I see pros and cons on both sides. Like I could make a case for both sides. Now I'm not Ty Hayes. Now I can't make a Ty Hayes case because Ty has actual factual studies and can make a great case. When you look at it just on the surface, I can make a case for Florida based on what you just said, right? I can make a case for the kid because he signed with these people, whatever reason it didn't work out. Now, hence we're here. It's going to be very interesting, if I can say, it's going to be very interesting to see where this thing goes, because this could actually start a problem if you see a kid sue a university for, what is it, non-compensation at the end of the day, I guess?
Yeah, for
And
damages.
it actually, right, and it actually goes through. He's actually successful in doing that. We got to be very careful as a college football world of what we're letting happen nowadays, right? Man, I just don't know, Ty, because Florida has a point. If like, who's in the wrong, who's in the right? What does the contract actually say? What is the NIL deal or the compensation or the collective or whatever it was that was supposed to pay this young man? What was the details? What did the fine print say? Who was in the wrong? How did it not happen? Why didn't he get paid? How was he able to leave? I got so many questions about it. But at the end of the day, if I had today pick something that's wrong, I think that the powers that be that's over college football as of 2024 will always side with the kid. It seems right now they're always siding with the kid. Hell, they let kids transfer 17 times in one semester. They let them pick up NIL bags at every school. Right now may be the perfect time for Mr. Rashada, because it seems like the powers that be are siding with the kid.
True. Chance, what you thinking?
Yeah, one of the, you know what's funny? One of the first schools I thought of, well, with the exception of Florida with this situation, is Texas A&M.
Yeah.
If y'all join the lounge, I don't know if y'all join the lounge on Discord. This is pretty much one of the first kind of NIL groups, or that really partner with the players, and a bunch of players are in the Discord. They're talking to the fans. Some of these players from A&M, man, they were open. They were very open. They didn't hold back at all in that Discord when they talked about their NIL situation. And yeah, a lot of these players didn't get paid. Ty, you know the story of the land. Players getting offered land, acres of land. It's wild. Houses were promised. Apartment complexes and condominiums were promised. A lot of promises that are wild. And like I said, I don't want to get the channel banned, so I'm shut up about some of the stuff that's going on, man. Because honestly, I swear, it's like this is like some secret ape. Like this is some some government non-disclosure type crap we're talking about, man. About some of the crap that was revealed. It's insane. That's one of the schools I thought of, because like what was one of the big stories with, I think, was Walter Nolan, was that he didn't get paid. He was promised a certain amount of money, didn't get his money, and that was with a lot of those athletes. So I'm with Sean to a point where if Rashada wins this lawsuit, and this will probably take years. Honestly, this is going to take years. This might take his entire college career and then some. One of the situations that I thought of was Cristiano Ronaldo. This is Europe, but I thought about it because I'm looking at the Cristiano Ronaldo and Juventus situation, where Ronaldo he didn't get paid his yearly salary, which was $9.8 million for the year. He's still fighting for that contract. He's still fighting to try to get the money, or I'm sorry, 9.8 million pounds or euros. I'm getting my currencies mixed up. But it's been 5 years. He's still fighting to try to get the settlement money. So this is probably going to be a similar situation with Rashada, because you're at this point, you're going against the university. You're fighting this university, and so it will probably take him a lot. It might take him a lot of years and then some in order for him to potentially get this thing settled. So it could be a situation where Jalen Rashada decides to back down from this, because you got to pay lawyer fees, right? These people are not cheap, man. You're gonna have to pay some fees. And so I'm very curious to see how the situation goes. But if it concludes and he wins, oh yeah, expect a lot of football players that didn't get their money to go out and do the same situation.
And Jake, before you go, Jance, to back up your point, Ish Harris, a linebacker who is from the state of Texas, actually right down the street from where I'm at in Pilot Point, Texas. He committed to Texas A&M. He retweeted something a while ago when he bounced from Texas A&M about they weren't getting paid the money they were promised. Now, in the interest of fairness, he did come forward and state that he didn't mean to retweet it, but interesting nonetheless with some of the other things you've heard about. What else is interesting is Lisa Fitzhugh hits with the $20 donation saying Rashada lawsuit, a distraction that hopefully won't be a trend in college football, where a head coach, Kirby, of the Georgia sue dog litigators green lights a player when he actually wants to sue another head coach. Now, there is something that would be brilliant about that. Like, what if Kirby was just like, get him, go sue him, and let's distract them. Let's take down what they're trying to build. That would actually, in a terrible way, be a little bit hilarious in the worst way
they're
possible.
dead already, though. I mean, like you're
True.
like, man.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's like a no mercy rule.
What's the line from The Simpsons? Stop it! He's dead already. Right. Like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Jake, thoughts?
Fitting, though.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, that's an interesting comment. It is a distraction, but at the same time, like if the kid sees fit, you know, how much did it affect him, right? Like, where did he really want to go? So these are some of the questions we have to start like also asking that are not obviously you won't see these necessarily. Maybe you see it in the paperwork. And Ty, I'm gonna get to you real quick and ask you again on these prongs, but real quick with Rashada, like, did he want to go to Florida? Did he actually really want to go there? Was like that a passion for him to go there? Like, did this derail everything because did it break trust? Did it cause a lot of anxiety? Did it cause a lot of problems within the relationship? How much did it affect like the kid from a mental health standpoint, because he's hearing stuff from his corner and then he's hearing stuff on this corner and everyone's telling him to go this way. No, don't sign until you get that money. Cause then there was something talked about that on signing day when Napier was like out announcing, right? Like he hadn't signed. And I think that was during like On 3, Andy Staples was talking like Pete Nakos about this, right? Like JuJu, once he signed, he was getting a certain amount of money, but he didn't sign his letter of intent because of possible disagreements already around it, or there was something. There's so many other details in that lawsuit. And again, I know Ty, you've kind of read this over, right? Correct? You read the initial.
Well, I
did
didn't.
We try?
I didn't actually get access to the lawsuit filing because I have to pay $30, and then I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot and went about my day. But I should have. But I found the court that it was filed in, and you can pay to get access to the lawsuit. And I actually think maybe next Thursday I'll pay to get it, and we can actually read through it. I don't want to stress High Top out, but I might have him over here and see what he has to say. Resident Florida content creator, great guy, love High Top.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. Like that'd be interesting to read through it and see, because the verbiage is, I mean, just, you know, with my background, I wasn't a lawyer, but I had to basically set when I did whatever I did, like from law enforcement standpoint, you are very much involved in what happens going forward afterwards. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's very, very important. Like when you're writing though, you tell the truth. So how much of this that comes out, like grants a lawsuit, this is not a criminal case, but how much of it is still the truth? Because there seems to be a lot of fluff at times, right? That goes into some of these things, even from the criminal side, I can't tell you, like there can be fluff and it's disappointing. Like you need to be directly honest and get to your points. Ty, what are the prongs again?
So you have 4 prongs. It's false statements about a material fact.
Okay. So we have that one.
Then you have knowing that the statements that you're making are false.
So you're right. Like getting on that one right there. How do you prove that? Like that is going to be very, very hard to prove. Like, so when Napier promises him money, supposedly that he does, right? Supposedly there's text messages. I don't know that, this is just what is said and put out there. When he promises him, in his mind, does he trust then from whoever? I can't remember the guy's name because there's a couple different names in there. The NIL guy, does he trust the fact that he is going through with what's going on, right? And then the same with the player. So that's hard. So you're saying that prong says they have to know, right? Not Rashada, but they have to know besides Napier. But who else is he suing? What's the other guy's name?
It's several people within the university, if I'm not mistaken.
Part of like their collective, correct? Or like Donator or whatever that site is. I think it's the collective, I think. But so they have to know that this isn't true in order for that prong to be accomplished, correct? To check off.
I'm about to pull it up. I'm not used to Firefox, so it's having me jump through a few hurdles that I'm not ever having used to doing. But I'm going to pull up the actual law here.
And then what was the third prong, Ty?
The third prong is intent, which, that's tough.
I don't, man, intent is so hard to prove. So hard to prove. Who
was the other person that was involved? It was Gator. Gator Automotive, and it was somebody else. That's the person that they want to try to make it prove.
Yeah, owned by the gosh, what's his name?
So I have highlighted right here, and I'm going to try and make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have 4 prongs. 1, a false statement of material fact. 2, that the defendant knew or should have known was false. 3, that was made to induce the plaintiff to enter into a contract. And 4, that proximately caused injury to the plaintiff when acting in reliance of misinterpretation. And so prongs 2, 3 are going to be real hard to prove. And then Anthony, you asked a great comment earlier about whether or not Miami had anything with him. Miami and John Ruiz has come out and said they didn't. And so already they have to have some proof that that's not a true statement, or else you don't have prong 4. You don't have the $9.5 million that you're stating was the injury to you decommitting from Miami and going to Florida, because apparently, you had a $4 million difference in your NIL, 13.5 to 9.5. If you don't have that prong 4, already rough, you have to, but prongs 2 and 3, gentlemen, that's going to be tough, real tough.
Yeah. Because I think right now the goal for their team is to probably prove that it's definitely prove that Hitchcock and Billy Napier were the ones that really were. I mean, because Hitchcock, because Gator Automotive had their money in reportedly. They had their money, $4.4 million. They already got it, and they were waiting for Hitchcock. Hitchcock was supposed to put in the rest of the money into the thing, and Hitchcock didn't do it. He didn't, and supposedly he didn't honor the agreement. He he had, I think, like maybe $250,000, and that was it. That was like the only thing he did. And then that's how, Brian, and then I forgot the other details, but Ruiz somehow, some way got into it. And then of course, Billy Napier knew about it. Reportedly, that's why he's kind of getting in the mix of things. But really, it's Hitchcock. I think Hitchcock is the one person that I think if they're going to go after anybody, it's probably going to be after him, since he was the one that with Hitchcock and Gator Automotive were the 2 major NIL kind of dealers in the situation.
This is going to be really interesting. And like I said, you would imagine that they do have something. I know that they have entered texts into some of the evidence. We had some conversations about the discovery process last night. That's going to be fascinating. But I have to believe that either and Chris made a great point last night where he was saying how could Rashada be trying to get to the stage where when they do get to discovery, Florida has to overturn the evidence, and that's how he's going to be able to do this? Or does he actively have the evidence right now, and that's why he filed the lawsuit, right? We know there's texts. We don't know what those
Yeah.
texts are. And then another hard part, and I don't know, once again, this is me being an idiot. If there are phone calls that are recorded, Rashada's from California. And one of the interesting things is California and Florida are both two-party consent states, meaning both parties have to consent to the recording of a phone call or else it's been illegally recorded. Now, if you're in the state of Texas,
Right.
I can make a call with somebody and I'm the only one that has to consent to that phone call being recorded. There are single-party consent states and there are double-party consent states. Both California, where Rashada is from, and Florida are dual-party consent states. So I'm fascinated by this, but I'm also fascinated by what came down yesterday, guys. Major.
Can I say something real quick, Ty?
By all means,
Can I say
Coach,
something?
by all means.
Anthony Mazzano made a really good point about the O'Bannon brothers, but I would like to tell him, I think the O'Bannon brothers case was completely different as far as it was in the realm of suing the entire NCAA for their name, image, likeness. I think that was the first time I had ever heard of anybody suing for that. I think that was the first case that I can remember. I might be wrong about that, but I think they were suing based off strictly name, image, and likeness of monies trying to recoup from the entire NCAA of college basketball at that time. I think this is more of a situation with a kid and a university, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that I understand, Anthony, 100% where you're coming from. It is
facts,
an interesting connection, but Coach, I believe you are 100% right on that, as usual. But yesterday, guys, there was also some fascinating stuff that happened from an NCAA level about them settling house. Coach Sean, you and I talked about this. God, what was it, last Friday? Wherever I said, this isn't going to court. They're going to settle. It's the difference between paying $6 billion and $3 billion. You're going to be unhappy either way. One of them is a lot more money. Here we are. Athletes as far back as 2016 will be eligible for compensation. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But guys, there's some interesting talking points with this. First, a lot of people are saying this is going to destroy college football. And listen, it very well could. I'm not an expert. I'm no genius. But from where I sit, there is one interesting thing that this allows. It allows for the NCAA to be viewed as legally acceptable in terms of their antitrust structure. Once they do that, they can start implementing guardrails on the transfer portal. That's the whole reason that the transfer portal is wide open right now. Every time they try and do something, a judge slaps them down and says, but your antitrust structure, and the NCAA goes back and they're like, yeah, we don't want this smoke. That's the positive. Here's the negative, guys. The NCAA is still the one calling shots, right? Like Chris put it best last night. He said, this is a small win for the NCAA because of that antitrust, but it's still the NCAA. They're incompetent. Hire me, NCAA. You have a bunch of lobotomites working for you. I'll take less money. In the interest of your greed, hire me, and I'll be wrong a little bit less often than they are. You know, well, think about it. And I won't besmirch you on camera anymore.
Exactly.
Right? So, guys, here's one thing I've seen, though. What happens to the mid-majors with this deal? What happens to your Boise States? What happens to your Utah States? What happens to your North Dakota State? Jance, I'm going to start with you because now you have the reigning camera spot, and we'll go Jance, Coach Sean, and then Jake.
I have no idea. Well, first of all, man, I know I talked to a couple people, man, that's at Buffalo, man. It's like, man, I don't know what the hell's going to go on with these particular conferences and these particular schools, man. I'm telling you, man, dynasty mode is going to look a little different. It's going to look a little different, man, in a couple of years when dynasty gets here. Yeah, I mean, these players, I mean, it's transfer portal season, all this stuff. I'm telling you, man, all this stuff is gonna change. I'm just gonna keep it a little short for me. All this stuff, though, I'm just gonna say this, man, it's gonna change. It's gonna change.
For me, it's about control.
Yep.
It's about control, man. The NCAA will mess up a sunny day in June and make it snow. You have to understand that. This is about control. Now, I'll give you the bad part. Anytime the NCAA is in control of something, you're destined to have some screw-ups, some inconsistent screw-ups, depending on person, school, and all type of other criteria. Ask North Carolina about their receiver in the NCAA. But I will say this, man, on the flip side of it, and to Ty's point about the small win, what other way can you pay these kids an equal amount of money to the point to where they won't be jumping in the portal every 5 minutes and implement some rules to stop all this BS that's going on in college football now? With this way, we're going to give you a huge stipend. You can't complain about what we're going to give to you. We're going to give you a nice, healthy stipend. We're going to give it to every kid that's been here since 2016 and participated in the program. And on top of that, we're going to allow you to flaunt it, to let everybody know what it was. We won't put any type of limitations on that. It's your compensation. But in return for this compensation, you will not do A. You will not do B. You will not do C. This way you can control it. You can stop some of these things that are going on. Everybody's happy. Now, the only part of that is, the kid is happy. You got your check, a big one. The parents are happy. You got your check, a big one. The NCAA and the rule makers and fans are happy. You can't hop in the portal every 5 minutes. But the only downfall is we're putting that, it's supposed to be an association. We're putting them back in control as they are now. And we have to just go with it. That's my opinion. You have your pros, but you damn sure have your cons.
And I don't know which outweighs the other. I dare say the cons outweigh the pros because, Coach, like you said, though we'll have guardrails, who implements the guardrails?
Mm-hmm.
The NCAA. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, you and all your glorious incompetence are back at the driver's seat, which is exactly how we got here. They drove us straight into the brick wall, and now we've bought them a new car, and they are barreling us towards another brick wall. And it's like, okay, well, this brick wall has a little bit more give than the other one, so maybe this won't hurt as bad, but it's still not going to be pleasant. Jake, what you thinking?
Yeah, no, trying to kind of read through kind of some of these different things because just there's so many aspects of it now that change, right? Yeah, you can put guardrails in for like transfer portal stuff. I mean, I do like the fact that I like it. I would want the schools to be the ones that control. What's up, Tate? How you doing, man? Control like the money aspect though, as far as paying the players, like, because then I think you can kind of it feels like it does even out the playing field, because then you can go through and say, okay, this is the set amount of money you have, right? And from here, you have to work with this. It's basically like a salary cap, right? But it has to be, in order to do that, it really has to be monitored. Like that's was one of the things I was just looking at, like who monitors it, the NCAA, or do you have another group that monitors it? That's like an outside unbiased group, right? Like, because you put it back in the hands of the NCAA, again, they're back in the control power, like just what Sean said. So it's going to be interesting to see with some of these. And again, like we talk about the Power Five, it's really the Power Four right now. But and then we talk about these, Ty, you brought up the mid-level guys, right? And how it impacts them. And that's it. That's going to be really interesting because, and help me out here. Is this only pertaining right now regarding agreement with the Power Five?
I don't know.
See,
I don't know a lot about this, if I'm going to be very honest, because one, I don't think that don't get me wrong, I think there are people that understand this very well, but I'm not one of them. It's all so fresh and I have so many questions.
Yeah. Because how does that affect everybody? Are we going, that's the biggest thing. And so I think where I really come down to when I'm looking at all this, and I'm, still breaking it down, because there's just a lot of little pieces to break down. And then there's a lot of speculation on which direction it will go from there, because we see where it could, things are like, oh, thank God we're moving forward, right? We can start taking some steps forward in the right direction. But we also see where that direction could just like circle back around in a way to holding on to like this power. And we're back to these inconsistent decisions. And we have a bunch of bullshit like tampering here and there within the aspect of how money is being, I guess, tracked, right? Because that's going to be, I mean, that's a thing that's been around for a long time. Granted, the revenue sharing is going to be a big deal, but you know, I can't emphasize, I think, enough though on the fact that the university's in control or being like set in a position where you're like, okay, here's your money that you get to use towards NIL or whatever the hell you want to call it, because name, image, and likeness, even though it's not that, here's your set amount you can utilize that to go after and spend what you want on who you want, right? But you can't go outside of that. And so that just has to be regulated like hardcore, because that's just that, as we know, that rarely happens. So
Yeah, and David, you make a great comment here. I don't know about that. This will constitute these players as employees. So now can you fire them? In a roundabout way, David, you've been able to do that. I mean, you
yeah,
look at Prime, who cleared that roster out, and he's not the only one. He's just one of the better examples of someone who came in and said, okay, I was hired to win football games. Let's put together a winning roster. People are processed out all the time. We talked to a recruiting insider a few weeks ago, and he was telling us people are processed. That's how this has gone. Now, will that increase? Probably. And then David follows it up with yet another great question. Who dictates the salary cap, the conference, and will each player get paid equally? Or are we setting contracts like the NFL? Great questions.
Can I respond to that?
Please.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll ever happen. I'll tell you why. In any sport, and I mean from youth league to NFL, all players are not created equal. That'll never happen. I don't think Jalen Milroe will ever make the same as the fourth string center. You know what I mean? I don't think they'll ever be equal. The quarterback will always make more than everybody. The pass rusher will make second. The corner will make, especially in football. I don't see how you could ever have a pay scale. And Jake, you can speak to this. I don't see how you can ever have a pay scale where everybody gets paid if it's based off revenue sharing. I don't think, I will say if you make the pot big enough, maybe people will look over that. Maybe people be so excited about the amount of monetization that's coming in. Maybe they won't complain about it. But in this world we live in, I don't ever see where Bryce Young will make the amount of, as Des Ricks. I don't see where that'll ever happen. I would dare say sport is based off having one person being better than the other. Sport is almost, the foundation of sports is having stars, right? The face of whatever you're doing. That's college, pro, youth league. The stars is what people really come to see. I mean, people support their teams, right? But the stars is what make the teams. I don't ever see where you'll have an equal line of monetization from one player to another. Now, if the players are like-minded, second string center, second string middle linebacker, maybe. But I don't see ever where the quarterback or the starting corner or the starting pass rusher will ever make the same as your third string center. You will always have levels to this thing. And I think that's a part of what's being structured right now. You're going to have some guardrails on this. Really quickly, I'll say, I know personally that the compensation for each position is being talked about. Way 2 years ago when we gave that speech to parents, it was, if I remember, I still have the paperwork. It's called it was the SAC, Student Athlete Compensation Introduction. And we talked about how this player was important. Now, if your quarterback is not the leader of the team, he's just a decent player, he's not the absolute star, maybe that goes the other direction. But you will always have those 3, 4, possibly 5 stars of the football team that will always make more than everybody else. I think that's just what it is. And I can't say that I disagree with that. I really believe it should be that way.
Yeah, and then Stacy asks a great question. So what happens to scholarships? I don't know.
And that's how you, so that's funny you bring that up, because that's how it was paid for, right? Like that's how you were compensated Okay. Yeah, we have behind the scenes stuff, but like let's take away the behind the scenes and all this other the stuff that goes on the backside, right? Because it wasn't out in the public. It was hard to discover all that and what was going on. Just I mean, I know from my playing days, right? But but as far as the scholarships go, the scholarship was that's how you were able to create this equal fair pay, because everyone got the same scholarship, right? It cost the same amount of money to go to school. You got the same amount of money for your food reimbursement, or if you lived on campus, you got this. If you lived off campus, you got this amount in a living expense to be off campus, right? And it was similar around, because within the scholarship there were the rules, right? And you were able to make it more even. So it's interesting that's well, I mean, it's a great question. Like, what does happen to the scholarship? So do they utilize, that's your next question. Do they flip this back around and now say, okay, we take away the scholarship, we pay you this amount has to go to the college though to pay for your tuition, books, whatever else they do for you regarding that. We no longer will cover the food expense. We no longer covering the housing expense. You no longer have a certain stipend, right? But you have to pay for your tuition, cover your books, and this is the set amount we put aside. And based on this, and this, there's a lot you'd have to say. And then with Sean, with your point, it's like not every position is equal. They're not. I mean, yeah. So your best player in your team is getting as much as, your guy in your team needs the most development, right? And that's going to be a big one, because people aren't going to like that, right? They're going to say, well, wait a minute, and then from name, image, and likeness, do we still have it in place? And maybe they've talked about this and I just haven't gotten that far into it yet, but is it still in place that these players can be sponsored, right? So, you know what I'm saying? And Lance, I mean, maybe, but they renegotiate that deal, right? That's coming up, because it ends next year with Nike from Alabama side.
Stacy, you were well placed to ask, right? Like, these are the questions, and I sincerely apologize. I don't have the answers, but you are incredibly well placed to ask these questions, because these are the questions that I have. These are the questions that I think everybody's going to have, and I wish I knew more, but we are in an infancy stage of something that is going to shake the very foundations of what we have understood college football and college athletics to be. That's why every day is going to be a learning experience, but I don't know, right? Like, I wonder if it will be like the NFL, where they're just given X amount of dollars and say, build your roster. Yeah. Right? Like, you can use this to recruit off of, build your roster with X amount of dollars.
Can I say this, Ty?
Please.
I don't know what the tuition is at Alabama. If I'm guessing, it's probably what, 12, 13,000 a semester for in-state students, maybe.
I'll check it out right now.
I don't know what it is. Okay. While he's checking that out, I want everybody to think about this, and somebody's going to bring this up, because this is what these kids do nowadays. They're a lot smarter than we were. 11.9, okay.
Yeah,
about 12,000. We'll just say 12,000 semester for in-state students. When you have a football scholarship, University of Alabama, 12,000 a semester. If they're on semester, and you have 85 kids on scholarship. Alabama's making anywhere from $2 to $5 million a Saturday. On a football game, on a home game. They get the gate, they get the concession. Now, this is outside of, I'm talking about ticket prices and parking. This is outside of media contracts. This is outside of, I think this includes gate compensation. When I say gate, that's the tickets. When I say concessions, that's the food, paraphernalia, the stuff, but everything bought up into one. Outside of that, outside the TV contract, they making anywhere from $2 to $5 million a Saturday. Yeah. Right. So they could pay for everybody's scholarship 5 times, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Basically,
so, yeah. When you're talking about this scholarship, because this is what I heard during my day, when you're getting a scholarship, that should be good enough. Well, here's what people don't understand about playing college football, and Jay Merrill can speak to this. When you don't come from a home, my mother worked 2 jobs. She busted her butt. My father died at an early age. That scholarship was the only reason I made it to college. The only reason, it's the only reason why. And that scholarship, while it benefited me after college, it helped my quality of life, right? When I was in college, brother, I was struggling. Eating ramen noodles was a normal thing. My mother didn't have the money to send me. I had some teammates that would have thousands of dollars in their bank account. I didn't even have a bank account, bro. You know what I'm saying? She would send me $20 in an envelope wrapped up in a newspaper, in a loose leaf paper. That $20 went a long way. I made it stretch, bro. Right? So when you look at these kids, everybody, all these things are gonna come into play. I'm telling you, all these things are gonna come into play. Every kid's background is different. You understand what I'm saying? So when you look at the incoming money, the money that they're making off of college football, it's a reason. Me and Ty talked about this. Jay, Merrill, we all talked about this. It's a reason, guys, where everybody wants a piece of college football now. Look at everybody that's getting involved with college football. Warner Brothers, freaking streaming services. Then people didn't give a damn about college football years ago. Everybody wants a piece now. Guess why? It is a lot of money to be made in college football, and this college football playoff is going to accentuate that. Please believe rich people can smell. This is the analogy I used on Kyle's show the other night. They can smell the money, bro. They know exactly where to go. They know exactly where to. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody wants a piece now. So the difference is these athletes nowadays have access to things that we never knew about, man. We never even talked about, where the scholarship came from. Jake, Jan's a little younger. We never talked about where the hell the scholarship, we didn't care. We didn't know. We just know we get to go to college for free. I'm there. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Well, now these kids are way smarter, bro. They can track every dollar. They know who it came from, where it came from, how much they pay in this one, how much the university's making. And they're not going for it. They're not going for it, man. And so to Ty's point, this thing is far from over. This thing is far from over. Coach Saban told you guys about this 3 years ago. Coach Saban told you Pandora's box is about to be open, bro. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think the average fan understands, because the average fan tunes in. They enjoy Saturdays as they should. They don't understand it's gates to be paid for, concessions to be paid for, ticket prices and ticket allotment to be sold and bought, and there's so much business that go into putting on a football game on every Saturday, right? Yeah. And all this stuff is going to be public.
And one of the biggest questions I have is, it the university? Like, where's the revenue sharing coming from?
Yeah.
Is it going to be per university? Is it going to be per conference? But if you do that, then you're not having any equity. The reason I ask, and David, to pop into your comment right here, Boise State, great football program. They have been a great football program for a while. I mean, that's one of those teams, gentlemen. I don't have to tell any of you. You overlook Boise State, you're going to have a long bus ride back home. They're going to beat you. And you're going to look up and say, how the heck did that happen? Alabama averaged 7 million viewers a year, or a game last year. Boise didn't have near that. So how are you doing this? Because JC earlier had a great comment about, it sounds like we're letting bagmen back at the forefront. Let me see if I can pull this up. Or JW Crunch, I apologize, saying, sounds like you put bagmen back in the business. Is that what you're saying? Bagmen are at the front of the business right now, right? Like, they didn't go anywhere. And if anything, JW, bagmen are more prevalent now than ever, because the NCAA can't do anything. And now it's all out in the open. And now NIL is pay for play. But when this happens, what are we doing to preserve equity, or at least attempting to preserve equity in college football? Because let's say it is just about views. Let's just look at the SEC. Kentucky doesn't average 7 million viewers a game. What happens to them? A&M didn't average 7 million viewers per game. Now they have all the money in God's kingdom, but what happens to them? I don't know. That's why this is fascinating. Check on my comment on the seed. I will absolutely do that. Bishop, let me go find it.
Yeah. I mean, it is going to be interesting. And there's a lot of comments in here regarding, what happens to the sports that don't generate as much like the smaller sports.
That's the question. That's your question, Jay.
Soccer's, because the budgets they're not particularly the greatest. I would particularly say you look at some of these athletic facilities with, like I said, not everyone's in Kentucky where it's full on. Kentucky is one of the best all around sports facilities in the country. Vanderbilt has one of the best baseball locker rooms you're ever going to see, man. But their football locker room is like James Franklin really changed life at that program. If it wasn't for James Franklin, a lot of the crap that they have now it was terrible. But their baseball program was getting everything. Stanford. Stanford is it's an all around sports facility. But then you look at something like somebody like a St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like not every university is equal in terms of trying to equal the playing field for a lot of their sports programs. There are certain programs where they get it all, and there are other sports. Look at Bama. The Coliseum, man, is an outdated basketball. It's outdated. Yeah. It's old. It's all hell. They're just starting, I think, to upgrade it. But let's be honest, Brian Denny, everything, all those athletic facilities, sports medicine facilities, weight room, largest on the planet. But that basketball stadium, man, is crap. So it's not everyone's equal. Not everyone is equal.
That's the unfortunate reality, right? And that's kind of, if there was someone other than the NCAA leading this, I might be more enthusiastic. And though I do think that there's some answers that can be provided, remember, ladies and gentlemen, I always say there are questions and there are answers, and I'm after answers, and there will be some answers. But you know what this is going to do? We all love, all right, this is a great analogy. How many of you were just fine with eating hot dogs until the curtain got pulled back and you got to see how hot dogs were made? Well, we're about to see how the hot dog is made, right?
Yeah, that's good, man.
Ty, I have a quick question. What if because there was an article about it, and like I said, this is going to be the most far-fetched scenario, but I wouldn't be surprised because this country is getting involved in so many different sports, it doesn't make any damn sense. Saudi Arabia. And the only reason why I say Saudi,
they're already invested into A&M.
I heard some about that.
They are, exactly. Wow. They're interested.
Crazy.
There's three alums that went to Florida. And I'm talking billionaires. Like there's billionaires that went right back to Saudi and they're working with the royal family. Went to Florida. One of them went to A&M. And the other one went to I think went to Berkeley. Mm-hmm. But they're and I gotta find the article. They're interested. They look at the NCAA. They see it's a lot of chaos. They think they can step in there and take ownership and leadership. Another reason why, though, they're trying to get prepared for the World Cup in 2030. They're trying to host the World Cup in 2030. Mm-hmm. They just purchased esports. They just purchased the world's largest esports circuit. Mm-hmm. So they're going to hold events there. I'm not saying that college football games will be in Saudi Arabia, but in terms of leadership, in terms of them getting involved, that is a interesting article. I got to find it. They go much more in depth, but it's very interesting. I would definitely say because they got their hands in everything. Professional football, of course, world soccer already. They're about to. It's literally they're about to turn that into $1 billion industry down there in Saudi. Basketball, they're getting involved in terms of trying to purchase more in terms of purchasing NBA teams. That is interesting to kind of look at right here. Is Saudi.
And before Bishop, we're about to hit this comment right here. Flossy Sports says Saudi is heavy in boxing.
They are heavy in boxing. They just hosted a boxing event with Anthony Joshua and Usyk.
Yeah, and Tyson Fury and Usyk as well.
Mm-hmm. You had two Usyk made $150 million, Ty. He made $150 million.
Damn.
Good for him.
Because of Saudi money.
Crazy. Good for him. But you had 2 European fighters. And let's be honest, gentlemen, England is notorious for a fighting haven. Go look at the UFC cards in London. The place is rocking. They don't stop chanting the whole time. I mean, it's
Wow.
probably the loudest venues you're going to see. They love fighting, whether that's UFC or boxing. You had 2 of the biggest boxers in the world, Fury and Usyk. They didn't fight in England. Fury is from England.
Mhm.
They didn't fight there. They fought in Saudi Arabia, right? Like that's where they were.
And they're gonna fight there again. in
Yeah.
October.
Yeah. And wasn't Francis Ngannou and Tyson in Saudi Arabia? It was, if I'm not mistaken. It was.
Francis and Joshua. Shit. You look at United Arab. Like how what do they do? Fight Island in Abu Dhabi.
Yep.
And the reason it's just, I'm telling you, I'm just like, I wouldn't be surprised if Saudi does get involved in this. I mean, they already are involved with, like you said, Ty, with certain universities. They are a big part of it. Saudi has the most money. I'm telling you, they are a business. They're a very, very fast rising country in terms of business.
Mhm.
They are getting involved in a lot of American sports, and they're generating a lot of millions.
Interesting to think about. And when I said they're involved in those universities, I don't mean from an athletic standpoint, but just like in terms of funding different research things. If I'm not mistaken,
That's a good point by Jason. Good point.
Yeah.
Well, and golf as well. Yeah, Jason, great point. VCU, because I was just looking at a job over there for Virginia Commonwealth University. And as I was looking at the different campuses, there was one, if I'm not mistaken, Saudi Arabia. Right? Like they are really getting involved in different sectors of education, all of this. But Bishop says, Ty, can this be the beginning of the Big Three breaking off as their own league? Dare I say that's the only way that this will be able to be equitable, is if there is one super conference with divisions in it, and maybe it's the Power Four. I'm going to pass this off to y'all. My phone is blowing up. I got to take a quick phone call, and then I will be right back.
Got you.
Mhm.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a coincidence? Do you guys think it's a coincidence that our commissioner and the Big Ten commissioner pretty much, and I'm paraphrasing in my own words, but this is pretty much what they said. Listen, you're going to give us more college football slots or we'll be out. Your choice. The Big Ten, the SEC get 3 apiece or whatever it was, and y'all get the rest. You figured out how y'all want to do it, but we get the most slots. It doesn't take big cojones to say that when your teams are the teams that's whipping ass every year. Your teams are the teams that put more asses in the seats, more eyeballs on the TV, and you pretty much run the world. It's just what it is. If it's a saying that we say in the hood that I know y'all say, we pay the cost to be the boss, right? If your conference is the conference that's winning everything, that is producing the most monies, have the biggest TV contracts, why do you guys think this relocation happened, man? Right? Why do you think this Voltron conglomerate came together? USC attaching to the Big Ten, UCLA attaching to the Big Ten, Clemson and Florida State trying to get the hell out of the ACC and attach with the SEC. It's happening right before our eyes. Now it takes time. It takes time because these are all TV contracts. These were all agreements that are legally binding from years ago and for years in the future. So it takes time. But why do you think the Voltron effect is taking effect right now? The arms are forming. The legs are forming. I'm getting the hell out of the Pac-12. See, brothers, the Pac-12 is gone. And really, let that sink in. It's no more because of the very thing Ty just brought up. It's happening right now. And yes, I do think down the road, and it's starting now, that it'll be 2 conferences. I think it'll be 2 conferences with a lot of different divisions. And yeah, I think it's happening.
I apologize for that, guys. I just sent y'all a private message. My mom called 7 times.
Whoa.
Asking, hey, did you hear about, and when mom calls 7 times, you have that like, what the heck is happening?
That's hilarious.
She was just like, hey, did you hear about the settlement yesterday? And I'm like, Mom, Yes, I did it. Yeah. Join in on the live stream.
Yeah,
So
jump on in.
she's,
Going in.
she's not the best with technology, so I don't know if we'll see comments. But she was like, "Oh, like I told y'all think I'm college football obsessed. Nothing like my mom. That's where
Yeah,
I get
love
it
it.
from."
I love it. But yeah, do I think we're looking at this big three? I mean, Sean, you just made a great point. Like, I mean, I do think that we are moving in that direction. What I think will be cool is to see it broken down. Like, honestly, I would like to see it like the NFL, to be honest with you, at this point. With like, so we could get back to what conferences and where people are playing and what areas. This traveling from one side of the nation to the other side of the nation. I mean, Stanford, I don't, or Cal and the ACC. That's insane. I'm going to be honest with you. What? Like, get out of here. Like, and I get it.
What did baseball do, Jake, to deserve that?
Yeah. Well, seriously. Like, you take away just football. Like, let's get out of the mindset of just football. Look at these sports that play multiple games throughout the week. Like, how the hell is these going to be, jet, boom, 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 boom. Like, they're going to really have to figure out all their scheduling. There's going to have to be, okay, we're playing this many games during this time frame. This is when we play this team. Again, similar to what we see that with the MLB with like series, right? So I think that's going to be interesting to see for the other sports who play more games throughout the year. That's going to be really, man. Yeah. And the cost, women's volleyball across the country, insane. So it would be, going back into that direction, it would be smart to finally get back into a play where, there is conferences and then they're broken up within those conferences, like that's why I bring up the NFL, NFC, AFC, right? And then they're broken up based off of their locations and where they're at, right? And so I think that would be useful. I think it would be beneficial. The hard part is then people start bitching about monopolies again, because we go back to, well, you're only playing this competition and you got to the playoffs, but then you got your ass kicked because you didn't play competition, right? And that's because the team that you played they were able to disperse their money and get better players than you. And all this, you know what I'm saying? It starts to, like, again, we run into the same shit we hear. Everyone got pissed off, right? Because I get it, but everyone felt like it was going to make things fair, and by saying, oh, let's do it this way. So that way teams, all the players don't want to just go to these sets of teams. Well, that hasn't really changed that much. Let's be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're good, you're good. Okay, that's how it goes. So they're like, oh, well, we got to invest to get better players to be good. Well, no, not necessarily. You probably need better coaches, but you're going to lose all your coaches and to the NFL because your systems and the whole entire NCAA system is all fucked. And I'm sorry, moms. I don't mean to cuss. I apologize. I won't say the F word again. But it's all screwed. I put it that way. So, from there, like, because the coaches don't want to go through these timetables all year long. I mean, like, just look at what the coaches said. You have basically a few weeks with your family, and then you're right back in it because you're recruiting your team. You're making sure everybody's happy. They're staying home, right? Then you got to recruit new players. Then you got to make sure the transfer portal's ready and everything about the transfer portal. Then it's like a nonstop whirlwind, and then you get into the season, and then there's the pressure of winning, and then there's the pressure of making sure that you're meeting the rating marks for to get into the playoffs based on your wins and based on who you played and based on how many points you've put up and how many points there's just so much stuff. So yeah, we need to get it back to, I love the term keep it simple, stupid. I love that. We use it in training a lot. They use it in the military in training, but they also use it when we train new guys in like law enforcement. It's like, don't overcomplicate something. Don't overthink this stuff. Like, this is not some crazy things. Like, just you have common sense. Like, what happened to common sense? Damn it! You know what I mean? Yeah, it ain't common.
Yeah, that's the problem. Thank you for the 555, Bishop. And then he doubles up saying, thank you for the 333, saying SEC, Big 10, and Big 12, thinking that the ACC will fall by the wayside. And listen, based on current situations out there, that could be plausible. Stacy with another fantastic question saying, Ty, if there's a super conference, what happens with the SEC rules of transferring within the SEC conference? Wouldn't that be part of the conversation? That opens up a whole new can of worms, right? And this is a great question because would then each division, like let's say that we do maintain a Power 4, right? But now we have it under a super conference, right?
Yeah.
What happens? Like that's a great question. That's why there are so many small things that have got to get cleared up before we ever have any path forward. And Coach Jay and Coach Sean, Anthony has a question for both of you. Thank you for the 333 again, Bishop. Great conversation piece. Let me find this question Anthony asked. Basically, it was asking about if, here we are, Coach and Jay, if you had a choice of combination with Clemson, who would you rather have, FSU or Miami, in terms of those schools moving to the SEC?
Go ahead, Coach Jay.
I'll take Miami because of their brand name. Because I know if Miami goes back, they got the city, the celebrities are going to be going to the game. That brand, that's $1 billion brand. That's one of those names. That's one of those names that's known worldwide. Everyone knows where Miami is. Everyone knows about the University of Miami and what the potential could be like. We've seen Clemson we've seen peak Clemson, and it won't compete. No, hardly any schools can compete with Miami and USC in their heyday. Even Alabama, as successful as Alabama was in terms of going to 9 national championship games and winning 6 national championships under Saban, it will never ever reach the peak popularity that USC and Miami were back in their heydays. It will never reach it. There are some universities that can come close to it, like Florida State, Florida in 2000. Those Urban Meyer Florida years, but Miami and USC, that was peak. That's college football. That's, if you want to sum up what college football is on a whole, you show them Pete Carroll USC, and you show them Jimmy Johnson from the 80s. You show them for the most, you show what Miami were in the early 2000s. That is peak college football, and so I'll take Miami in the heartbeat. And in a way, I'm hoping that Miami becomes successful, because the last time they were actually good was in 2017. What happened? The U chain, right? Even though they still have from Alabama, but the U chain, like, that was popular, and all of a sudden everyone's back on the Miami hype train, and they're selling out games, and so, like, they were covered all over ESPN or all over by sports broadcast nations worldwide, simply because of their brand and what it is, and celebrities were going left and right. So I'll take Miami in a heartbeat because of that.
For me, I'm gonna go a little different, Coach Jay. I definitely understand Coach Jay's point because he's 1,000% correct. But the difference for me is I don't think it'll ever be that way for those schools again, because back then practically every top kid in Florida stayed in Florida. Like, they went to Miami. That was the thing for them. Practically every kid, whether he was from the Crenshaw district or whether he was from Calabasas, they stayed at USC. I think nowadays, with so many kids in California leaving, so many kids in Florida dispersed all over the world, it's going to be really, really tough for those two teams. Now, here's the thing: if Coach Jay's right, if those two entities are good for a long period of time, they could easily get back to that, right? Because they have that staying power. But I think the difference is with the kids of 2024, when the football team suck, it's a lot of things to do in LA. When the football team suck, it's a lot of things to do in Miami, right? I don't have faith in Miami, man. I'm on record saying I don't have faith in them anymore, because when I tell you this is no exaggeration, brother. They have like 3,000 people at a game. Like, it's ridiculous. Their fan base don't really support them in the game, but they support them on YouTube.
It's a soccer town.
It's a soccer town, right?
Yeah, it's a soccer town now.
So when you look at those entities of today, I like the consistency of Florida State. Even when Florida State was bad, they was having a record sellout. Like, that stadium was packed. Like, they were on TV. Florida State, to me, is one of those type schools that if they get the right, and Mike Norvell may be that. Florida State to me is one of those schools that if they get, and he's done better every year he's been in Florida State. So I much rather have Florida State because I think Florida State is the more popular university nationwide right now. I don't think Miami's following is that big outside of the South anymore. I don't think USC because is that big outside of the South anymore. Now USC may have the inside track on if they ever get good again. They'll explode because of LA, because of the stars, because of the market, because of who follows those guys. But it'll be difficult now. It'll be difficult now, especially moving to the Big Ten. I'm not sure USC is going to ever win that conference. I don't think, right? I think I would take Florida State to answer the question. Clemson, outside of football, doesn't really bring anything. I think Florida State, basketball-wise, baseball-wise, girls softball-wise, college football-wise, I think Florida State is a better value as of 2024.
Yeah, and we had that massive debate last week, or this week, I should say, about Florida State and whether they should have made the playoffs. But it is interesting to think of what the future holds. I have been on record saying, listen, we talk about Napier's having a lot of pressure. Cristobal's got a lot of pressure. Napier's got a really tough schedule.
He's from there. He's from the hood. He is you talk to those Miami fans, they say, bro, he's respected. He can go to any you can go to any neighborhood. He's got the pass. Mm-hmm. They know him. He's around those parts. The way that it is right now, there's certain places he can't go anymore that he had a pass. Certain places he can go.
I think Ty could probably answer this question. Excuse me, Jay. I'm sorry, brother.
No, you good.
Ty, you tell me, and you and Jake, you tell me. Miami is a private institution. These guys can garner wages and money from anywhere. Don't have, they got money, man. How is it that Louisville, UAB, and Birmingham, how is it that these minded stadium people or architecture or whatever, whoever decides on stadiums, how is it that Coral Gables, with all those empty ass buildings down there, how is it that they can't tear that stuff down, build them a 50,000 seat stadium right there on campus in the eye of the storm, call it whatever, and really reap the rewards like UAB has? UAB used to play at Legion Field, which is about 20 minutes from UAB, in the middle of the hood, middle of the projects, Illaton Village housing projects all around the stadium, right? People didn't really feel comfortable going, you know what I'm saying? How is it that UAB can get it, tear down all those empty buildings in downtown Birmingham, build a protective stadium, and that thing is packed and they use it for everything. They use it for the USFL, they use it for UAB, and that money has been rolling, right? Why can they not get it right at Miami? You're traveling 45 minutes to the Dolphin Stadium and calling that a damn home game. Your fans don't support it. They don't travel. You barely play on TV nationally. How do they fix that, Ty?
I wish I had the answer, Coach. I do, because I have the same question. UCF has a stadium. And listen, I'm not trying to bag on UCF. I think that there's a real shot. They could win the Big 12 this year, right? Them, Utah, Kansas State, great competition there. But if UCF has a stadium, the U should have a stadium. It doesn't have to be 100,000+ seat like Bryant-Denny, but it's the U. Like, you have the famous song. I don't know if y'all have heard it. The Seventh Floor. Y'all heard that one?
No, I haven't heard that.
Oh,
I'm gonna check it out.
You haven't heard the Seventh Floor?
Nope.
I was expecting. So it's
not
back
by name.
It's back whenever the Miami football players made a rap, and it's on YouTube. And it's like Greg Olson and all of them are in this rap, and it's like a 7-8 minute rap song. It's hilarious, right? It's great. But that's the type of swagger that the U used to have. Like, they're one of the more recognizable brands in college football that hasn't won in the majority of my life. Right? Like, early on in my life, they were great, but since then, they haven't been the U that they're clinging on to. But still, you have such a recognizable brand, so much notoriety, a private institution, a research institution, if I'm not mistaken. Don't hold me to that, but I do believe Miami is one of a top research institution. Anthony, who's our resident Miami fan, shout out Coach Smook hopping in here. Hope you're doing good on this Friday morning.
Coach.
Anthony says, Coach, I'm going to answer your question. There's corruption in the city of Miami and the government of Miami. That's why the University of Miami hasn't gotten on-campus stadium after the Orange Bowl closed.
Wow.
That's sad.
That's crazy. Yeah, man. I think that stadium would help, Coach Jay. I think if you get them a stadium, let them call it the Eye of the Storm or whatever you're going to call it. Let them keep those resources right there in Coral Gables. I think that'll help, man.
Dude,
You know what's crazy? How the hell does Inter? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You're good. Go ahead, Jay. I'll hear yours.
No, I was about to. How the hell does Inter Miami is building a stadium right now? They just purchased thousands. I think 20 something crazy. I'm not gonna something crazy when it comes to acres of land. But if you look at their stadium design, again, it's a 30,000 seat stadium. But it's crazy. You look at the infrastructure. They got like 2 ponds right next to it. Like it's man, the infrastructure, the amount of land that they bought is insane. This is Inter Miami, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new stadium. This is a new stadium. New ownership. For the Fertitta brothers. Like they just purchased this team 6 years ago, and they're already getting a new stadium. 30,000. They paid over $1 billion. Like what do we? Miami's been around for how long? And they can't even build a stadium because of corruption? What the?
Wow.
So, Jay, would you say it's fair to say that this could get messy? I'll see myself out.
Oh, there it is.
I'll see myself out.
I see what you did there. I see what you, but you know what? You know what? That's probably the reason why right there. Because Lionel Messi, see, I'm telling you, man. That's what Miami needs. They need a Lionel. They need like how the Dolphins, how they brought Sergio Busquets. They brought him all the way over here to so they can bring all the Hispanic, the Hispanic population to fill up their seats because Miami can't. The Dolphins can't sell any games either. That's what they need. Miami need. You bring. I'm telling you, man. You bring Messi in there. Get Messi in the game. I guarantee you those seats will be filled up. Guarantee it.
Yeah, Lionel Messi was big for that, and I am now 0 for 2 on bad puns this morning.
Did it good though.
You get them all. You get them all, right? That's what I'm here for. Some comedic relief. And it's not very good comedy. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do? You're here. So, as this is a conversation we could go on forever. But guys, I wanted to hit this last little talking point because I'm about to have to go get my vehicle taken care of for our road trip. As Dwight, I like those emojis, Dwight.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Love it, man.
Right.
Gary asks how the coaches are doing this morning.
Goof. Gary, what's up, dude?
Football. Gary.
Yeah. But what were you saying, Ty, with the running back room? What do we got for this last topic?
Let's talk about Alabama's running back room, and will this be a catalyst for the offense as a whole?
Ooh. Go ahead, Coach Sean. You the running back, man.
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually coming with a video today about the running backs that I got. I got some information on. In a nutshell, I do think that I do believe when you look at the history of Coach Kalen DeBoer, what I liked about him, this offense was not an offense that throw the ball 50 times and don't run the ball. This was not an offense that got so wrapped up in the pass game that they forgot about Dylan Johnson. That's not the case. They were very prevalent in running the ball. This guy was second in the Pac-12, if I'm not mistaken, on rushing. He was second behind the Cal running back. And I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I may butcher it. So he was second in the Pac-12, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. So this is an offense that will run the ball. And I think he hadn't had the resources that he's had, that he's got now at his disposal in all the running backs we have. And I do think Kalen DeBoer is a mastermind at getting these guys involved. And I do think the running back room will propel this offense to greatness. I do.
Yeah. Jake, what are you thinking?
Yeah. I think with Alabama's running back room, man, like that depth is insane. You have a three-headed monster. You could, I'm not trying to not say anything about those freshmen because those freshmen are great, right? And you got Riley and Hill. So great freshmen and others coming in too from the 25 class, right, with Turbo. But see who else we pick up, because we're going to have to pick up another, right? So I'm excited about this room though. In general, you got this 300 monster. I don't think KD has ever had a running back room that is so I mean, the depth and the ability to utilize maybe some different talents. Not because not every running back, everyone has their own style, right? And so it's cool to see. You got Jam, you got Haynes, and you got Young, and these guys all will produce different types of results that will allow you to scheme up a run game that will take a lot of pressure off of your passing game. But at the same time, what I think a lot of people forget with this running back room, what you can do, and you saw a little bit of their looks. I mean, you got a dual back look, right? A split back look back there with Jam and Justice on the field at the same time. Like, that is insane. Could you imagine who's getting the ball? Which one's getting the ball? Because either one of them, whoever gets that ball, is going to could demolish your defense. And it causes the defense to split in this way, this mindset of like, oh my goodness, like how do we defend these? We are going to have to stack our box. Okay, so you stack your box. Now guess what happens? The offense that we saw at Washington comes alive to a whole nother level, because there's so much of a threat with the running game that with the vertical and horizontal stretch due to the passing game, you got to play down the middle. So they're going to want to, a lot of teams are going to want to close the middle instead of leaving it open, because they're going to be worried about that running game. You have to have strength down the middle to win football games, right? Especially on defense. So it'll be interesting to see how this running back room, which I think is going to be amazing, but how it really affects the passing game and everything else around it. In Ephraim, I know you say it all depends on the O-line. Dude, that is one area I'm going to tell you right now I am not worried about when it comes to the run game. These guys are all recruited for running the ball, like the offensive line. It's a matter of getting them to flow and just get into good communication, which they have in Parker Brailsford. That's why I always say you return for starters, because Brailsford I'm going to count as a starter. He started in this offense already. He knows how to communicate it. Your only last question is that other tackle position, which we've discussed, and it sounds like we go that Form B route, because he looks most ready to run that tackle in that position. So
yeah, and shout out to Kimberly for hopping in here this morning. Hope you're doing well on this Friday morning. Hope your weekend is going to treat you well. Same with you, Carla, and everybody in here. Stacy saying, Ty, watch out you don't get recruited at Colorado, and I let her know. That would require me having any level of talent. We don't have to worry about that, right? We just don't have to worry about that. They would laugh me out of the building, right? It's a funny story. When I actually toured Alabama, I think I've told Jance, you and I've told you this. I toured Alabama in high school whenever I was really wanting to go there. Whenever I wanted to go to Alabama, was hoping I'd get a full ride, and didn't end up getting a full ride. And because I thought I was going to law school, I just didn't want to graduate with a bunch of debt, like graduating undergrad with debt and then compiling that with law school debt. Knowing what I know now, hindsight's always 20/20, but I would have gone to Alabama had I known, hey, you're not going to law school. Neither here nor there. But I actually snuck, that's a loose word. I'm not exactly the most agile to be sneaking into places, but I got into the stadium when it was supposed to be just like people who were on visits for that weekend. And it was when they played Western Carolina.
Okay.
November 17th, 2012. So this is a while ago. I have the ticket right there. That's what you see right there. And then the Cotton Bowl ticket is above it. And then there's a Pokeball, right? Got to keep you on your toes. Mm-hmm. But I signed this thing that I was like, I was on a football visit, right? To get into the stadium. Someone who worked at that stadium took one look at me and they said, you're not on a football visit, are you? And I was honest. I said, no, I'm just in from Texas. We just want to see, And they knew instantly. So I'm sure Colorado would be able to look at me and be like, you're lost, aren't you? And I'm going to have to tell them, yes. As a matter of fact, yes, I am. Got Keyway in here.
Didn't you see Derrick
Moonrocker.
Henry? Didn't you see Derrick Henry? You were trying to be when you were. Didn't it sound like you were trying to like you were like a kicker or something?
I tried to tell them I was a kicker, and
That's
they didn't
awesome,
believe that
dude.
either. They were like, But if
That
I'm
is
not mistaken,
awesome.
yeah, Derrick Henry was, because I remember going back to the hotel and they were like, "Oh my God, Derrick Henry is like, I want to visit." And my dad, he was like, "Oh, is that I think we might have seen him." He's like, there was a group of people doing this, and we don't know whether it was officially him or not. But my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I mean that guy looks like he's massive, right? Like, what is he going to play, defensive end?" And they were like, "No, that's a running back." And my dad, who is a Nebraska
That dude
fan,
hasn't aged, man. Like that dude hasn't aged a bit. I'm telling you, because I seen him when I visited what did I visit? I visited Gainesville, Florida. I didn't even go to the Florida game, but I ended up just kind of seeing him. I ended up seeing him in a local restaurant. That dude has I'm telling you, I look at him now compared to what he was in high school. Has not changed. Physical appearance, how he looked when he was 17 or 16, 17 is exactly how he looks right now at 30. He has not changed a bit. I'm like, dude, this dude might have been 25 when he was in high school. I think he's lying about his age. Because that dude, I swear, at 16, 17, he looked like a grown. Like I'm telling you, he could have entered the club. If they're not asking for any IDs, you would have thought this dude was like 25, 26, 27. That dude, yeah, he's freak, man.
yeah, it. Listen, that I remember everybody, because he'd already committed, and everybody in Tuscaloosa, even at the hotels, were like, "Oh, we got a freshman running back that we hope he ends up signing. The kid is going to be on a different level," right? Like, there was a palpable excitement there. It was really, really cool. Really cool. Moonrocker, what's up, my guy? Hope you're having a good Friday. Been far too long, man. Steven Scuba, aka Scuba Steve, in here. And listen, I think as we're closing out, Jance, I want to hear your thoughts on the running backs.
Oh, this running back room is going to be very diverse. We have power rushers, we have straight downhill runners. We have guys that are we have speed, we have speedy guys. We have guys that for the most part they're going to be catered towards their vision and elusiveness. But yeah, this like I said, man, this blocking scheme with this offensive line is going to be way more. It's going to be way more versatile. Everybody has a certain skill set about them. But like I said, man, I love these designs. The pen and pulls, the center pulling, tackle pulling, guard pulling, the trap sort of concepts. I mean, it's going to be elite. It's going to be. I'm telling you, man, this 330, 40-pound downhill zone blocking scheme that we ran with Ty Maurice, I'm telling you, it's going to change. It's going to be completely changed. It's going to be very, very diverse. It's going to keep defenses on their toes constantly. And like I said, I think for the most part, in terms of building a much better athletic profile for the pros with this offensive lineman, it's going to help. Troy Fautano ended up being a first-round pick because of it. And I remember he was a kind of the fat, chubby Samoan kid that didn't have any movement, and they ended up kind of working with him with strength and conditioning. And in 2 years, he became a first-round pick. Rosengarten was that tall, lengthy, string bean sort of offensive tackle. They beefed him, they buffed him up, but still kept the athleticism about him, and he's ended up being a third-round guy. So, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited for this offensive line. Obviously, this is a much more talented offensive line compared to what Kalen DeBoer had to inherit the first time. So, now that you have kind of two bulldozers manning your interior offensive line, Formby is Rosengarten. He actually reminds me a lot of Rosengarten from his stature. I mean, a matter of fact, I think Coach Merrill, they're literally the same. They're same size. Yeah, Rosengarten was 6'8", Formby 6'7", but same weight and everything.
Yeah, they have the same look.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to see what this offensive line can do. I think that's going to be the crux of it. But no, I mean, like I said, I like this running room. It's very, very young, but it's very, very young, talented, but at the same time, very versatile. All of them have their strengths. You have you have two power rushers, you have two speedsters, and you have one dude that, for the most part, is extremely elusive and has phenomenal vision. So I'm excited to see what this running room can do. But I'm confident, man. This is a much deeper running room than I think we've had in the last 3 years.
Yeah, no doubt. And Coach Sean, for everybody wondering, has a great video breaking down the offensive line and why it will succeed. And though I'm of the mindset, because I'm a pessimistic person, right? Like I am, I just need to see it. I'm not worried about run blocking. Not in the slightest, right? Run blocking is going to be unbelievable. I'm just excited to see how much it progresses. Moonrocket, thank you very much, man. But I am nothing without a great community and a fantastic panel to talk back and forth with. So, I mean, but that's what this channel is all about, man, is getting together with great content creators. We need to get Jake to get a YouTube channel started.
Yeah, I know, I do, dude. Yes.
I am nothing if not for, the people around me.
Dude, that's a great point, man. It's a great point. It's all about the people, man. 100.
One of us. It's time for you to be one of us, man.
Yeah.
Start streaming.
Let's do it.
Think you're muted, Coach Sean.
So come on, Coach Jameer. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, for real.
All right, guys. Gary, I know you said already closing out. We've been on for 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
It's time. It is that time. I'm going to pass it around the table, let everybody know where they can find all your great content, whether that's Twitter handles, YouTube pages. Get on the YouTube page, Jake. And then we will see you all on Thursday. Right? Thursday, I'm not going to be here Monday, going to see some of the wife's family in Colorado, taking a little bit of a vacation, a few days driving out there, and going to have a great time. But Thursday, we will be back roundtabling again, talking about the Big Ten, talking about the SEC, who could possibly win it. That's going to be a wild show. We went 2.5 hours, just about, maybe it was 2 hours on Monday, and we meant to do all 4 conferences. We only got through 2 of them. That's what type of in-depth talking you're going to get. Don't want to miss it. Next Thursday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to pass it around the table, starting with Jance, then Coach Sean and Jake. Let the people know where they can find all of your great content.
X or Twitter, Jance716. You want to do, any collaborating, any sort of, get sort of content, or just random talk. I've gotten some weird messages from people, but it is what it is. I'm still down with the conversations. Jance716 there, and then of course Jance Sports on YouTube.
And for myself, before I do, shout out to 2 of my players who played for me. Shout out to Jonathan Wiggins, man, and shout out to my partner Tristan Harris from A2 Eagles, both at BJ, one at A. Man, shout out to both of you kids. Good to see you guys. Love you. Tell your parents I say hello. You can find me JMHO Sports Talk on both platforms. That's Twitter and YouTube. Just my humble opinion. That's all it is. JMHO Sports Talk. And to Anthony Mazzano, Bo Jackson is the best running back I've ever seen in college football this side of Herschel Walker. Nobody was better than him to me. But thank you. Thank you to Ty for having me on. It's a whole
anytime, Coach. You already know. Anytime I'm on, you have an open invitation, just like Jance has, man. That's how Jance and I became friends. And I've said this all the time. We've been streaming together since 2021, and anytime he's not on a live stream, it doesn't feel right. Like that's why Monday I was just like the whole time I was like, "Where's Jance? Where is he?
Where is he?"
I probably was taking a nap. I forgot what I was doing. I was doing something.
Hey, life comes first always, man. Jake, where can the people find you?
Yeah, I'm going to throw, boom. I think I just threw it in there. So you guys will see it in the chat. Will pop up any minute. But if you haven't seen it, but here's my Twitter. It's at Coach_J Mayer. It's all capital. You can also see it right there.
Boom.
Boom, boom. So, come hit me up, follow me, make conversation. Like I said, anything going on, I try to jump in with a lot of different people. I love these guys, have a lot of fun streaming. For me, as you guys have seen, the biggest thing it comes down to is I'm all about everybody being successful and having success and fun and happiness and bringing everyone together, right? Then that's what is the beauty of the sport of football. That's why I like talking about football. That's why I played the game. The love is there for that game, and it brings people together. So there's a reason why all these movies are created for that purpose, right? Like, I mean, just look at Remember the Titans. That's my favorite movie. Look at how it brings people together, right? And the biggest thing it comes down to is as a fan base that joys these different channels and you tune in, support each other, build each other up, right? Have fun with it. There's nothing better than good banter. Have fun with it. But at the end of the day, respect, love one another, build each other up, and move forward towards a fan base that we all know in Alabama football, the greatest, the biggest fan base in the world. Like I said, I say it all the time, 4.55 million strong. Utilize it for all those good things. So much love. And I just enjoy being with all of these guys.
Yeah, this is
Likewise.
therapy for me, guys.
Mhm.
So love coming together with you guys. We'll be back on Thursday. Until then, Jance is going to have you covered with great content. Coach Sean is going to have you covered with great content. I can't believe I got that right. Usually I go this way.
Hey, you get good, man.
Exactly.
Jance has got you covered. Coach Sean's got you covered. And Jake's got you covered on YouTube. Everybody in the comments, thank you for allowing us to be able to do this. Thank you for the support. It means far more than I could ever eloquate. It is so impactful to each and every one of us, and we can't thank you enough. Until next time, roll tide as always, gentlemen. Let me introduce you to the 5th member of the panel, the one that's always rolling, the spinning wheel of doom. And it spins.